I grew up really enjoying going to the horse farm my aunt ran. Every time I rode a horse, I always felt an overwhelming sense of excitement and freedom, especially the moment when I was running on the track. Even though I occasionally got hurt while riding, it didn't stop me from loving horseback riding. Every time I ride, I feel a special bond and understanding between myself and the horse, a feeling that cannot be described in words. The horse farm my aunt runs is a beautiful place. Besides riding horses, I could also see other animals. This made my love for nature even deeper. I remember it was a weekend afternoon. The ground at the horse farm was a little muddy because it had rained a lot a few days before. But it didn't affect my boyfriend and I. We were still very excited to go horseback riding. We arrived at the horse farm, I said hello to my aunt and chose a gray horse. I skillfully climbed on the horse's back and we ran 2 laps around the horse farm. We came to the hurdles and I said to my boyfriend, I want to try a higher jump. My boyfriend nodded and reminded me to be safe. As I approached the hurdles, I felt excited and thrilled and decided to sprint as fast as I could. But just then, a voice appeared and told me to slow down. However, I ignored the voice, thinking that I was skilled enough to handle any situation. Suddenly, I felt the horse's hooves slip and both I and the horse lost control. I tried to pull the reins tighter, but it was too late. I lost my balance and my whole body flew forward, hitting my head hard on the ground. I was now acutely aware of how foolish my confidence and recklessness had been. With a violent dizziness, I gradually lost consciousness. Everything around me started to become a blur. My consciousness began to fade until I eventually disappeared completely into the darkness. After spending some time in the darkness, I suddenly felt a great force pushing me up. When I opened my eyes, I was surprised to find myself standing in the same place. My body was lying on the ground, as if I had died. I was so shocked that I felt like I was in a wonderful dream. I could feel that my consciousness was completely separated from my body. Then I heard that familiar voice. He said from behind me, "Come on, we have to get out of here." When I turned my head, I saw a little boy. I think an angel would be a better description of him. He looked only 10 years old and had a lovely face. He was wearing a white robe embroidered with golden flowers. His golden hair shone like the sun, and his wings were made of translucent feathers. This angel made me feel a sense of warmth and security. He told me that the demons of hell were coming and that we had to get out of here right away. I asked him where we were going. He did not give me a clear answer, but only repeatedly emphasized that we must leave immediately. As the angel pointed into the distance, I saw a group of dark spirits approaching me. These dark souls were wearing black robes. Although their bodies could not be seen clearly, their claws were very visible and seemed to be able to pierce anything easily. The dark clouds around them also made them look even more terrifying. They gave off an evil aura. Their skin was dark, as if they had been baked by fire. Their eyes were all red, like burning coals. I looked at the angel floating above my head, and he held out his hand for me to grab him. As I flew upward with the angel, I saw the ground become smaller and smaller. The outline of the earth slowly appeared in front of me. We were going faster and faster, and the image became more and more blurred. Suddenly, we appeared in a beautiful place. I saw a magnificent city. The city consisted of huge golden buildings that gave off an endless glow. We walked through the gates of the city and entered a wide square. There were many angels and souls gathered in the square. Some of them smiled at me and welcomed my arrival. In this place, I felt an indescribable joy. My body became light, and all the pain and fatigue disappeared. I knew that I had arrived in heaven, a beautiful and sacred place. Here, you don't feel hot or cold, and there is no hunger or thirst. This place is so perfect. The angel said to me that he was leaving and that there were others who needed help. I thanked the angel and then he disappeared. After I walked into a room, I saw two old men. They looked very kind. The clothes they were wearing were also very strange and looked very old. There was a very heavy book on the table in front of them. One of them looked at me and asked me with a serious look, "Why are you here? Shouldn't you be down there?" His words made me feel confused and scared. I trembled and replied, "Are you saying I should be down there?" I felt that he was implying to me that hell was where I should be. They all seemed to see my confusion and laughed. One of them pulled out a book with names written all over the thick pages. He told me that this was the list for the day, but my name didn't appear on it. I didn't quite understand what he meant. Then, he turned the book back many pages, and I was surprised to see my name appear on it. I wanted to know what it meant, but they just smiled and told me that my time had not yet come and that I should return to Earth. I looked at them and didn't know what to say. I hesitated for a moment and then asked, "Can I stay?" He replied, "You must go back. You are part of God's plan." I was confused and wondered what my role was in God's plan. I asked further, "How will you send me back?" Another old man replied, "We will take you to Jesus, and he knows what to do." I tried to understand all this, but I didn't know what God's plan was or why I had to go back. The old man seemed to feel my heart and he smiled and said, "Don't worry, Jesus will show you the way and he will assist you in your mission." The old man flew me upward and we passed through a cloud. A dazzling light appeared before my eyes. There, I saw a man clothed in a white robe whose light covered the entire sky. I knew it was Jesus, and his presence made me feel a powerful energy. His gaze was gentle and deep. Even though I had made mistakes, I felt unconditional love and forgiveness in his gaze. He reached out his hand and gently stroked my head. I felt my body become lighter, as if I had flown up into the clouds. I was enveloped in the love of Jesus. No matter what happened, I knew he would always be with me. My soul was healed and a peace and strength radiated from within. I knew that I was no longer alone. In that moment, I felt that my existence was no longer an isolated one, I was integrated with all things. It was an experience that transcended time and space. Jesus invited me to sit down in his presence. His hand held mine, allowing me to feel his warmth and strength. His hair and beard were brown and glowed with divine light. I felt his love and concern for me. He understands everything I have done in my life, good or bad. Then he took out a book. I saw my own image in it. The scenes in the book were constantly changing, as if the timeline was moving forward and backward. I saw the scene when I was first born. My family was gathered around my bed, cheering loudly. My parents were so happy about my arrival, and my sister was amusing me. Then, I saw my childhood in the book. I was riding a bicycle in the park. It was the first time I rode a bike. I kept falling down, and my father was by my side all the time and kept encouraging me. I turned the book back a few pages, and I saw a scene in a hospital. I saw a woman giving birth. To my further amazement, that woman was myself. I saw myself lying on a delivery bed, sweat soaking my forehead. Doctors and assistants were all around me, offering support and help. A few hours later, I finally gave birth to a lovely baby. My whole body had no more strength at that time. I looked at my baby and felt that everything was worth it. Curiously, I turned the last page of the book and I saw myself lying in my bed at home. My hair was all white. My face was covered with wrinkles, and I looked very frail. I knew my life was coming to an end. I was surrounded by many people who were with me. My children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren were all around me. They gave me great comfort. Finally, Jesus told me that I could choose to stay in heaven, but he wanted me to return to earth. I was very confused, so I asked him, "What does it mean that I am part of your plan?" He explained to me my mission on earth. I pondered for a while and then told him, "I am willing to go back." Jesus told me, "When you return to earth, you will have a healthy body again." Suddenly, I felt a powerful energy coming from him that was warm and full of strength. I felt myself surrounded by endless love. The scene around me gradually blurred and I felt like I was traveling through an infinitely dark tunnel. At the end of the tunnel was a bright light. I saw a familiar land, and the scenery and people around me were very real. Jesus was not beside me, but I could feel his company and shelter. I realized that I had returned to earth. Compared with the journey to heaven, the journey back was not too long. I slowly opened my eyes, and I saw the sunlight again. I took a deep breath and tried to stay awake. My boyfriend stayed by my side to comfort me. At that moment, the sound of an ambulance came and I breathed a sigh of relief. The doctors and nurses quickly lifted me onto a stretcher and began the first aid treatment. With the help of the doctors and nurses, I was brought into the hospital. The doctors told me there was nothing too serious wrong. They cleaned my wounds and stitched up some small cuts. Then they bandaged my wounds and told me to rest for a few days. My parents also arrived at the hospital. They looked very worried. I assured them that I was fine and just needed a few days of rest. It's been 8 years since this incident. I still have a scar on my forehead. Every time I look in the mirror, I remember that amazing experience. It was a life-changing moment for me. Now I have people and things that I love. Jesus has taught me how to love, how to appreciate life, and how to pursue my dreams.
My dream as a child was to be a soccer player. I injured my knee when I was 20 years old. I had to give up my dream. Later, I suffered from severe arthritis. My leg was in constant pain and sometimes it was very difficult to walk. At first I received conservative treatment, but there was no improvement. During my treatment, I spent a lot of time in prayer and Bible study. Then my doctor suggested that I should have surgery this time because the conservative treatment was not effective. We set a date for the surgery. I contacted my church members and family and asked them to pray for me. On the morning of my surgery, the nurse told me that I was the most relaxed person she had ever seen before the surgery. My wife and children were by my side. They walked me into the operating room, and then they stayed in the waiting room. Once in the operating room, they gave me an anesthetic. When I woke up again, I found myself on the ceiling of the room. I heard the doctor ordering the nurses to get more blood bags. The scene became tumultuous. I saw that my face was pale. I did not feel alarmed or worried. I walked through the walls of the room and into the hospital hallway. I felt no resistance as I passed through the walls or doors. As I reached the first-floor lobby, a man rushed in. His anxiety caught my attention. So I looked at him and noticed that he was wearing a plaid shirt and he was carrying a briefcase. He hurried toward the operating room, slowing down at the entrance to the operating room. There was a conversation with another doctor. I don't remember their conversation, but I know the man was also a doctor. Suddenly, I began to drift upward. I passed through the ceiling of the hospital, as if pulled by some mysterious force. I continued to rise until I passed through the roof and found myself over the hospital. After I exited the hospital, I began to go over the city at a faster speed. I was moving faster and faster and I felt the wind blowing past me. It was almost winter by then. But I didn't feel the cold at all. Finally, I entered a cave-like place and there was a small bright light in front of me. I came into the light. I saw the back of a man, and I subconsciously thought I should follow him. He had very long hair, he was wearing a long white robe of rough material and sandals on his feet. We walked up a flight of steps and before us was a gorgeous idyllic scene. The meadow was covered with bright flowers, which I had never seen before. There was a small river on the prairie. We came to the river and on the other side I saw loved ones who had died. They were gathered together. I saw my grandfather and my brother first. They saw me too, and they were as excited as I was. Then I noticed one person I didn't recognize. I later learned that it was my great-grandfather, who had died before I was born, so I had never met him. I could communicate with them telepathically. I couldn't remember what they were wearing or even what they looked like, but it was definitely their spirit. When I thought about hugging them on the other side, my guide who was leading me telepathically told me that I had to go somewhere else first and that I had to follow him. I followed him around a bend in the road. I saw a Greek-style building in the distance. It was vibrant white. There were many steps leading up to it, with huge columns in front. Many people were wearing vibrant white robes. They were milling around outside, going in and out. My guide led me inside. Inside was a huge library filled with books. My guide told me that it contained the Book of Life as described in the Bible. We walked to the back room where some people were sitting on chairs with a big screen in the middle. They told me that I would see my past life. But just as importantly, I was able to experience the impact of my actions on others. After watching, no one came out and criticized me. But I felt a great deal of guilt inside for the people I had hurt. Then they showed me what was going to happen to me in the future. If I choose to go back to Earth, some things will happen and some things will not necessarily happen. I next saw the scene in the hospital where the doctor who operated on me and my wife were talking and the child was sitting on the couch in the hallway. I wasn't able to hear their conversation, I just saw the scene. I saw images of family and friends saying prayers. Each prayer appeared like a note and one after another, stretching toward where I was. I remembered when I was a little boy and I prayed that my grandfather would not die. But my prayers were not answered, and my grandfather died anyway. My children cannot live without their father. As hard as it was to leave this place of love, I knew I had to go back. They told me that the things I had seen would be erased from my memory. If I am allowed to keep those memories, future lives will probably be changed. I would also keep some memories that would allow me to believe that my experiences were real. It wasn't long before I woke up in a hospital bed with my wife and children standing next to me. I knew my experience was real. God's love was with me throughout those weeks. I was in the hospital for 2 weeks. First in the intensive care unit and then in the general ward. I believed I would recover because I knew I was back here for a reason. At first I didn't tell my family what I was going through. I still remember how surprised I was when the doctor who saved me came to visit me for the first time. We had never met before that time, and he was the doctor in the plaid shirt. This doctor was very warm and kind. Shortly after I got home, I shared my experience with my wife. I told her, while I was in surgery, I lost so much blood that my soul left my body and walked out of the operating room. I saw the doctor, and I didn't know who he was or why he was there at the time. How he was hurrying towards the operating room and was wearing a plaid shirt and carrying a bag. This surprised my wife. Because at that time, she also saw this doctor in the hallway.